Reality is like a film set. There are directors,
Action!
producers,
Are we on schedule?
and even actors.
Can somebody get me a coffee?
The trick is realizing that you are playing all of these roles. You are the executive producer of your reality. My name is Daniel,
My name is Lauren.
and we're here to break the fourth wall to discover what's behind the scenes. And what you hear just might have you saying, "That's so meta."
Welcome back to That's So Meta, where we discuss the mystical, magical, and metaphysical. I'm your host, Lauren Marie.
I'm your co-host, Daniel James.
We're back. How many times am I going to say we're back after massive breaks
Every time.
every time?
It's been a few months since our last episode, as we've mentioned.
You know, life
Life happens.
finds a way. You know?
I always remark that I don't get a ton of engagement, although what little engagement we do get on the YouTube channel, I very much appreciate. Hello out there to my regulars. But there just isn't a super high demand for the episodes, and so we prioritize our time accordingly. And as filmmakers and videographers, we stay busy this time of year. It's our busy season.
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, on this episode, we will be discussing tree consciousness and the communication with trees. But before we get into that, we have some special announcements, as we always do,
Mm-hmm.
every 60 days that we update you. What do we got?
Gonna kick us off?
And I broke JoJo. I broke it. So,
I'm generally speaking, I'm just along for the ride. I don't actively know what's happening at any given moment. I'm just kind of here.
that's all right. Your presence is all that's needed. We are filmmakers, videographers, and we love what we do and we stay busy.
Mm.
We are excited to make a few announcements. Number one, our horror film, The Phantom Witch, and our drama, psychological drama, Holbrook, have both been accepted to film festivals, which is every filmmaker's excitement.
Mhm.
And so The Phantom Witch was submitted to, I think, 6 festivals, maybe 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, it's been accepted to both festivals that have gone to their decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then Holbrook has made it into one of the 2 it was submitted into, which is very exciting. And then the films are also still in consideration for, I think, 4 more festivals that decide all the way throughout the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody would like to see those movies, shoot us a message or a comment and I can send you a link. They are unlisted as they work festival circuits, but we're very honored and grateful to have our films recognized, in that official avenue, official platform of a film festival.
Totally. I mean, Holbrook was my first shot at making something, so to have it be accepted was really special.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah.
And so on that note, we have another film releasing this very week. At the time you hear this message, should be Monday, Monday the 20-something or other, 23rd, 22nd. We have a new documentary releasing this week. And it is part of a series that we offer in terms of a service to our videography called A Passion of Mine. So A Passion of Mine series was something that I'd come up with where you could take somebody's service or their product and you could do a documentary about it, like a short story-driven look into who you are and why you started doing the thing. So earlier on when we were designing this structure of these documentaries, we wanted to do one of our own as we were still finding our footing in the format. And so we made one on cryptozoology, and we discovered a place here in Pennsylvania called the Bermuda Triangle of Pennsylvania, which is a spotlight of 3 townships,
Mhm.
I think.
Mhm.
It was Kecksburg,
Mhm.
Uniontown,
Mhm.
and Derry.
Mm-hmm.
These are very paranormally significant, geographically significant sites in the sort of like West Virginia, Pennsylvania corner that myself, Miss Lauren, our good friend Caroline Atlas Lehan, and our good friend Garrett Frater Crow Jegeman Went out there for a couple days and we filmed a full documentary on this paranormal hotspot. And we shot this almost 3 years ago.
Just about.
Just about 3 years ago. And that's how long it takes me to edit my films. And it's evolved into something beautiful. So when I tell you guys that we did a paranormal documentary, I don't mean it's like a History Channel, Travel Channel, jump scare, try to spook you, creep you out type of vibe. It was never really intended to be that. And it certainly didn't become that in the edit. This film sort of evolved on its own once we went out there to shoot it. And we decided to add some really sweet, tasteful cartoons, some animations that really serve as the foundation of the film. And I am deeply proud of the way this little movie came out. And I would love for you guys to take a look at it, whether you're into cryptozoology or not. You don't have to be. It's really just it's an interesting little ride about 4 people just exploring the unknown.
Well, I would say like going into making the documentary, when we had heard about the Bermuda Triangle of PA, and we realized how close it was to the 2 of us, we got this little team together. And what is so special about the team that we have is that everybody brings something different to the table.
Yeah.
Everybody has like their unique perspective on things. And I don't think at any point, even while we were filming it, were we expecting like, oh, we're going to see a ghost, or, oh, we're going to see Sasquatch, or like,
Right.
and like getting frustrated when we didn't. It was
Right.
just all about hanging out together
Being together.
and seeing what we can see and exploring the new areas that none of us had like really taken time to be in.
Right.
And so I think even going into it, it wasn't like we had the perspective of like, oh, we better get something spooky on
We were
camera.
trying to catch EVPs or
Yeah.
see a ghost. It wasn't
And
like that.
to be fair, we did find some cool stuff, which is still interesting. But it was very much, about the friendship, just like the way that we want to do the Passion of Mind series. It's not necessarily about the thing; it's about
The people
the
who are
people.
doing the thing and why.
exactly.
And that's really shined through. So it's a beautiful little documentary. It's 20 minutes long. If anybody wants to see it, it will be available on the Moment Imaging and maybe even Tragic Hero Productions YouTube channels for about 2 weeks. And then we're going to take them off and submit them to festivals. So catch it while you can. We would love to hear your feedback. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet documentary. And then at the end of this episode, I'm excited to announce our next big film project. Big, very important special film project. And that being said, going into it, I will make one more announcement. We do have a special guest coming in the month of June. If you're familiar with That So Meta, we do interviews. Mostly my friends, people, in the spiritual, extraterrestrial, disclosure, metaphysical communities. So we have an old friend of mine in the channeling community, Daniel Scranton, who is known for channeling a variety of Pleiadian councils, Arcturian councils, and some other, extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial entities. He is a full-time career-based channeler, very sweet guy, friend of mine who I've met personally, and I'll look forward to interviewing him. So if you have any questions that you'd like us to ask Mr. Daniel on our episode next month, let us know. We'll be recording that around June 21st, and then it will be available towards the end of the month.
Very
Special
exciting.
announcements.
Dan and Daniel.
Dan and Dan, the 2 Daniels.
Actually, speaking of the 2 Daniels, that Everything Everywhere All at Once was directed by the 2 Daniels. That's
two
actually a director duo.
Y'all like trees?
Yeah, y'all ever heard of them?
You know what them green things are outside? Look like a big old broccoli.
You know what your house is made out of? Them.
Them. You get them?
They did.
So today's episode is about tree consciousness. And I want to do a deep dive on this because I'm very passionate about it. I perceive trees as being conscious. Conscious just like you and I, like humans, like animals, like our pets, like insects, like birds. They have a level of awareness. Now, obviously, they're trees. They would, okay? They can't talk
They
back to
would.
you. They would
Would.
if they could,
Would.
but they would. So they don't. Trees are conscious. They have personalities. They have identities just like you and I. Now, I discovered this for myself. Don't take my word for it, but please do. I discovered this for myself when I had taught myself channeling in 2015. One of the byproducts of learning how to do that allowed me to connect to trees the way people would interact. And I was able to tap into any given individual tree and discover that it had an identity, a personality like you and I, that it could hear and understand emotions and thoughts, and that it had its own. And that each tree, no matter how young or how old it is, had a level of awareness. And that was very powerful. It changed my perception of reality completely. That trees are not this inanimate object that you're used to seeing as you walk or drive down the road, but they're conscious beings rooted into the earth, into Gaia. And so what this means is I could go up to any tree and communicate to it. I could talk to it through my mind, through my heart. And some trees are very wise spiritually, and some are very closed off emotionally because some of them are afraid of humans. Some of them are grumpy. Some of them are happy. Some of them love to help and to listen and to make friends. And I have made actual friends with trees. One in particular is here in the town that I live in, who calls itself Micah. That's not a name that I gave the tree, but that's the name that it told me. And I developed a relationship with this tree because where it's positioned, it oversees sports fields for kids, Little League baseball and things like that. And it's also right next to a main artery jogging trail. And what it told me when we first met is that people run by it, walk by it all the time. Kids come by and scratch it, tear bark out of it, and sometimes lean next to it, whatever, but nobody really ever acknowledged it the way that I did, as if it had an awareness, a sentience. And that was very powerful for the tree, and that's how we made our friendship, our bond. And I could go up to any tree and meet it, and not all of them are willing to talk to me or to communicate, but they can. You have to understand that they have personalities, they have awareness. And so ever since this happened to me, I can't tear a leaf off or break a branch. It cringes me to cause physical pain. And I'll tell you guys a story about this that a crazy thing that happened just yesterday. But like when I'm driving down the road and we see workers shredding trees and cutting them down because they're blocking someone's view, or maybe they're close to a power line or something, it actually hurts. It physically hurts because these people don't have an awareness of the fact that they're killing a living thing that has awareness. Just because you see it and it doesn't move, it doesn't respond, it doesn't speak to you, it doesn't cry out, it doesn't mean that it is unaware. And when you gain this awareness and you talk to them and you develop relationships with these beings, it's absolutely life-changing. So trees have consciousness. Yeah. I refer to them as the antenna of the earth. Or vibrational anchors. So what do I mean when I say vibrational anchors? Well, trees produce their own high vibrational frequency. And when you get them together in a forest, state parks or national forests or anything like that around the world where there's a high density of trees, the vibrational frequency can raise so much that it creates density pockets of higher density frequency, whether that's fourth density, fifth density, whatever. However you perceive those physics, which is generally how and why people can experience paranormal encounters, slippages and loss in time, beings from other realms communicating to them and manifesting in forests. It's because the frequency there is lighter. To give you guys an example of what I mean, well, it's the opposite of being in a city,
right?
Around technology and the concrete jungle and the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth and the 5G and all that stuff. That's a low vibrational density frequency. You go into the forest near trees, high vibrational density frequency.
Just like we talked about when we were during our grounding episode.
Exactly, the grounding episode with Norman Love. Yeah, we've talked on this before, and the one other little thing I actually want to talk about trees, just to give them the compliment, is when I was young, I was 13, I came across a book. It was a short 25-page book where it actually teaches the healing properties of trees. That if you meditate with a tree, if you sit against them and rest or sleep next to a tree or stand next to a tree, it can have medicinal properties. It can help, your auric field can merge with the oscillating auric field of the tree, which is very high vibrational and can help clear out, blockages and density and, help clear your thoughts and help you solve problems. And you connect to this tree and tell it what you need and it will help you. So tree consciousness.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, beyond just like the perception of them having personalities, they can communicate with each other, and they are the network of Gaia, like they
Yes.
are access points to Mother Earth
Yes.
energy, and if you think about it, even if you don't think about it spiritually, like trees are great providers. They're great comfort. They're great, tree canopies provide shade and
Oxygen.
and, creatures can live within their branches and around them.
The
And,
mitochondrial network that sends and receives
the circle
nutrients
of life.
and water underground.
A tree falls, it decomposes, and then that's food for fungi, which is food for animals, which is food for it's so elegantly done. How could you not respect something that is just so divine,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
I find that, like I said, it's just they are the access points to Gaia energy.
Like the antennas of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
When we were in Mount Shasta, what year was that? What was that? Summer 2019?
19.
We were in Mount Shasta doing a channeling for stories from Orion. And I remember that the Hermes character, was teaching about the ancient wisdom of the trees in Mount Shasta, how old they are, because trees can live to be so very old. And that he was explaining that they can actually receive data through the air and through pollen and through the mitochondrial networks that can be carried from literally across the planet.
Yeah.
Information can travel, and these trees will, like antenna, receive the data and absorb it and then redistribute it to each other.
Yeah. And I think, wasn't there something that came out that said that trees do that for each other with resources as well?
Yeah, underground.
And nutrients.
Mitochondrial network underground. They send and receive water and nutrients through their earth network, their root network. How amazing is that?
It's just incredible to, you hear it and it might not strike you at first, but the more you think about it, it's like, what?
It's pretty
An
magical.
incredible mechanism.
That big, massive, beautiful creature at the park, in your front yard, at the forest, digs into the earth and communicates to other trees. And how could you not respect and perceive the majestic nature of a tree,
Yeah.
considering what it's capable of and what it
And
does?
Not to mention the age of them as well. Like you have to imagine that something that is as old as a tree and as integrated into the earth as a tree, they don't have a perception of time the way that we do.
No, they don't.
And would you like to speak on that? Because I know
Well,
you have a story regarding that.
Yeah, that was
But-
a good trigger right there.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I once lived in Olympia, Washington, my mom's place. I only lived there for a few months on and off, but there are some massive, beautiful, pine trees, many pine trees in Washington State out in the side of the yard. And I used to go out there and, there was a swing underneath it, and I'd come and go. Well, Lauren and I visited Washington State in December 2020.
20.
And I went back to that same house. It's an Airbnb now. And so
And
I
this
stayed
was
there
after,
for 2 days.
10 years of not being home.
11 years.
Yeah.
And I got back and I sat there with the tree, and my perception had radically changed about reality since I'd moved. I didn't go through my spiritual awakening until after I moved to Buffalo in 2012. So I get back there with this new awareness and perception, and I'm with the tree, And it had showed me a vision that was awe-inspiring. Like my mouth gaped open because I was like, what the? It showed me how it doesn't perceive reality linearly. And then it showed me a vision of me standing there in front of it the way it perceived me in the moment. And also a version of me 12 years ago, 11 years ago, living at that house, coming and going off the porch like a time lapse. And that it was looking at both time periods as if they were at the same time. And that it could choose what perception to tune into, but they weren't separate from each other.
Mm-hmm. They were simultaneous.
They were simultaneous, and so he could even perceive me in 2020 Daniel from when I was 2010 Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
The trees can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they simply don't perceive time the way that we do. I feel like humans are really one of the only creatures that perceives it in this particular type of way, because every other creature has some type of dealing with the passage of time, because
like our cats and our
it's
dogs.
their own perception. Mm-hmm.
That was amazing. And I share these stories with you guys to sort of instill the fact that trees have consciousness, they have awareness, they have personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And I even tapped into the tree consciousness of a very old tree in Lauren's grandmother's front yard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it told me that it had remember watching Lauren and her sisters kind of coming and going and growing up there.
Yeah. I'll get a little choked up just thinking about it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, you know, if anything, trees are the things that are going to remember us, you know.
They collect information. They're always watching and listening.
Mm-hmm.
All they do is have time to watch and listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And they, different segue, they also communicate with each other through the wind, as Hermes had mentioned. And would you like to talk on the experience we had the other day?
Yes. Okay. I mentioned how I can telepathically link to trees and communicate them, kind of like channeling. Well, I could see from our living room, I could see a huge tree down the street from my window where I sit. And there was a little bit of a windstorm, right? And you could see this is a massive tree, guys. Huge, wide, big, bushy tree. And you could see the wind blowing it, shaking, right? This. And in this moment, unintentional, I get this buzzing. Zzz, and like my third eye, pineal glands, my forehead starts to vibrate. And I get all of this information about the state that the tree was in and its perception of the windstorm.
It's actually because of this incident that we are doing this episode.
That this incident inspired the episode. Thank you for saying that. You're right. Because I was like, I have to talk about this. I never had my head buzz like that. I mean, it doesn't do that when I walk up to a tree and touch it and say, hi, I'm Daniel. I just don't feel anything like that. It was very strange. Maybe because there's distance across the street, it projected this energy. And you also have to understand that when you're communicating through something like channeling or psychic mediumship, things don't always come linearly either. But for me, I get everything dumped, like just a huge download of information all at once. And then you have to unpack it over time.
Yeah, you have to sort through it.
Because we as humans, we linear think. But trees who are not bound by linear time can send you one image that contains a whole page of information. All right. So I'm watching the wind blow through the trees. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, it's under a lot of stress. Physical stress from this wind blowing. And then it tells me, it says, yes, I feel the wind communicating and I feel it blowing through my branches. And I feel the stress of every branch that I have and every leaf that I have that can or is going to break under the stress of the wind. And then I was like, in this same moment, a lot's happening very fast. And I was asking it, I'm like, do you feel pain? Do you feel worry about your branches and the loss of your leaves? And he said, I understand that branches sometimes just need to fall, and leaves sometimes need to blow away. And wherever they land, there's a reason for that. Other trees, younger trees, they do have more of an attachment to their branches and to their leaves. And so when the wind blows like this, so we have a storm, they feel the stress and the strain on their branches, and then they are in fear for their safety.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that, when you're walking through the woods and you grab a branch and rip it off, just carelessly, without thought. Mm-hmm. So the next thing that it said was, I got this feeling, this vision of the windstorms themselves and the story that the wind tells as it blows through the trees. And I wasn't hearing or feeling the wind, but I was feeling the perspective of the tree experiencing the wind. And the tree conveyed that oftentimes storms, windstorms or thunderstorms, are a manifestation of the Earth Collective, or the collective vibration of Earth Gaia. Now think about the implications of that. So then I'm like, a lot's hitting me now. And I'm like, wait, so then if the collective consciousness of the Earth humans creates these storms that generate intense wind, and then that wind runs through the branches and the leaves of the trees, and that stress breaks the trees, breaks the branches, blows the leaves away, then these trees are literally buffers.
Mm-hmm.
Not just antenna or vibrational anchors, but they're absorbing and processing the actual stress and anxiety and tension of the earth and the human collective.
Mm-hmm.
And that physically manifests and affects the trees directly by breaking their branches and blowing their leaves away, oftentimes snapping the trunks all together.
Mm-hmm.
What did we see the other day down at your dad's?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What was that?
We had gone to visit my dad, and during the visit, they lost power, and we were like, ha ha.
Right when we
how
got there,
funny.
their power went out.
Yeah, we were like, ha ha, you blew a breaker, ha ha, what a joke. And then we were leaving after the fact, and
A couple hours later, we drove down the road
we
where
drove
we'd come
down the
from.
road, and a whole tree had been downed and very nearly took out the local restaurant. It fell completely over the road, and the road
Completely
was
blocking the road.
closed and stuff. Yeah.
That tree was
And it was a
snapped.
beautiful sunny day. I don't know necessarily what happened to that tree. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if somebody ran into it or what the deal was, but because it was a beautiful, clear day, there was no reason for a tree to have fallen.
fall.
It wasn't even windy to my recollection. So who knows?
But what if they're like a hematite ring that like it absorbs energy,
Yeah.
and then once it's gotten too much, it breaks,
Yeah.
snaps, falls on a power line, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm trying to say here is like trees are amazingly powerful and important creatures on our earth that could potentially be processing, absorbing, transmuting energy from humans,
Mm-hmm.
not just giving us oxygen and feeding all of the wildlife around them.
Mm-hmm.
But look at all of these energetic, spiritual implications about their existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's why like I'm an actual tree hugger now, because like I look at all of them with respect.
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that you should. Believe that you should respect everything around you, because there is a type of consciousness in just about everything. And, it's okay if you want to, pick flowers. Like, don't feel guilty for doing something like that, but do it with respect.
And
Everything
consciousness.
that you do, you should be very much aware, very conscious of your actions, and do it with respect, because that is also a living being.
Yeah. That has an awareness of itself.
Yeah.
That's so heavy. Let that sit for a minute.
Yeah.
You walk up, like we're wedding filmmakers.
Mhm.
And sometimes during photo hour, we'll be shooting like the bride and groom, the bridal party, whatever, at some park or outside the venue where there's a tree. And I've seen photographers or groomsmen
Yeah.
totally unconscious, unaware
Mhm.
that there's a branch hanging down that's maybe slightly inconveniencing the photo a little bit.
Mhm.
And they'll walk over and rip it
Yeah.
off the tree. Like, like, get out of my way. What are you doing right there? You could fucking move 5 feet to your left, asshole,
Yeah.
instead of ripping his arm off.
Yeah.
And it's brutal. It hurt. It's heavy on my heart. And I don't say anything in the moment because you can't. You sound like a fucking crazy person saying, oh, don't hurt the tree. You will hurt it. They're like, dude, what are you talking about?
Right.
But trust me, when you wake up and you see it that way.
Yeah. So I would say a similar call to action at the end of this episode is the same as the grounding episode, which is go hug a tree today. Go sit in the forest at a base of a tree, and you can meditate, you can read, you can play on, you can play with some rocks, do something, but just being next to a tree today and see what kind of,
Epiphanies happen.
epiphanies.
Thoughts come to you because it'll actually clear out your thought process. If you're having cloudy emotions, you need clarity, sit with a tree and allow it to help you.
Yeah.
Ask for its help. You never know what can happen. It can be very spiritual.
Yeah.
So that is tree consciousness, the antenna of the earth, vibrational anchors. I love trees. I love you, tree.
I love you, tree.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Make a
and
friend.
they love us as well.
They love us too.
So you just have to,
Be
give them
open
an
to 'em.
opportunity.
Right on. That's so meta.
That's so meta.
Listen, guys, at the beginning of the episode, I promised a special announcement.
Oh, yeah.
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 You might have already seen it. You won't see it. Look into the comment section or check here on my YouTube channel. As you know, we talk about it every episode. Miss Lauren and I are filmmakers and videographers, and we're always doing something. We're never not busy. But I have been slowly working on what I call my life's work for 20 years. And I'm not going to say too much about it right now in this video because there is an official announcement video here on my YouTube channel. We are producing a movie called Oma. Oma is a sort of sci-fi, cyberpunk, dystopian film based on a true story set during the Orion Wars, if you've heard of the Orion Wars or the destruction of Tiamat. And right now, today, our society as we know it, our civilization as we know it, and how the Orion Wars directly connect to our lives, our past, our present, our future, is very important to me. So if you're somebody who subscribes to the idea of reincarnation or parallel lives, life on other planets, this is the story of myself in another time, in another time period, and it is very near and dear to my heart. And we are fully in production in it right now. Miss Lauren and I are doing it, just the two of us, with some cosmic help.
Yeah.
But her and I are creating the movie, and I'm very excited about it. I'm very passionate about it. It is my life's work. If I never do anything else ever again, I will be very happy having completed this short and sweet, very personal sci-fi film called Oma. So watch the announcement video. It's only 5 minutes long. It'll tell you everything you need to know. And we look forward to you being along on the journey, being involved some way if you'd like.
Yeah.
And let us know what you think about it. So it's OMA. I won't tell you what that is, an acronym. I won't tell you what it stands for, but it's important.
Yeah. Congrats.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. You congrats.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right, guys. Next month, special interview with Daniel Scranton. Check out OMA. Check out our documentary, The Bermuda Triangle of Pennsylvania. That's so meta.
That's so meta.